Thank you, Guy. And so welcome back from the coffee break. And hopefully you did get a cup of coffee. And if you did not get a cup of coffee, we're going to now give you a cup of coffee because we're going to be talking about coffee and the global coffee culture. Whoops. So who are we? We are Civicom. I'm Rebecca. This is Amor. And we wanted to just share a little bit with you. I thought it would be helpful in the beginning here to tell you a little bit about how did we get into mobile qual and how are we global. Well, as Civicom, we operate in 96 countries worldwide. And our company started 12 years ago as a global telecom. So we immediately were automatically into 96 countries worldwide when we founded our company and built our platform. And over the years, we had a number of companies that were our clients that were marketing research firms as we were operating as a global telecom. And so in 2004, one of our clients from Millward Brown called me and said, Rebecca, I've got to do some IDIs in Europe. Can you help me? I want to do them using your system, using the phone. And I asked him, what's an IDI? Well, that was in 2004, and we started our business serving the marketing research community at that time. And in the first 2 or 3 years, we grew 100% year over year. That slowed down a little bit as the numbers have gotten a little bit bigger, but now we have amazingly become the global leader in telephone and web-enabled IDIs in terms of facilitating things worldwide, multiple countries simultaneously, multiple languages, translation, and now in the data analysis area as well. And along the way, we became interested in mobile. And because we realized that we had a global capability in all of these countries, we realized that we could get into the mobile space very, very quickly. Now, I'm not a systems person per se or a big numbers person, I guess is how I would say it. I'm much more of a qualitative type person. So, and our clients primarily came to us for facilitating qualitative services. So mobile qual was the right place for us to be based on our company's strengths. And our ability to start up our mobile qual practice went from 0 to 60 in basically immediately, because since we already operated in all the countries and all you need is a phone to do what we're doing in mobile qual. You can add a few other things into that if you want to, but the basic service operates around the phone. And that phone can be anything from a landline to the most sophisticated smartphone. And so we're going to let you in a little bit today on how we're engaging in that service with our clients on a global basis and in multi-countries simultaneously. So as Guy mentioned, we've presented a couple of times before, and here's a couple of case studies that we've talked about at the MMRW previously. I'm sorry, MRMW. Yes, my apologies.
It's MMRA and MRMW.
It's my speaking nerves. So in Amsterdam, we talked about getting to why using mix and match mobile technologies to gain heuristic insights. And our case study in that time was a European provider of baby strollers. And our study involved first-time moms and how the decision was made to purchase the extremely important baby stroller, which might be a one-time purchase in the family, and what were the drivers that were going to make that choice. And so the moms went out into stores. There's a US study that was for the US market with the European provider. The moms went out into the stores and they did things online, and they spoke their thoughts in response to a number of questions that the client had regarding how the choices were made, which led them to make changes in how they marketed the product in the United States. In Cincinnati, we did what's become somewhat our notorious lather, rinse, repeat shower study. In this study, women were actually asked to speak their thoughts while they were physically in the shower, testing a set of blinded products for a change in a formula to a well-known and famous body wash that needed to change its formula because of cost. So today, we're going to continue that, and we're going to talk about coffee. But before I talk about that, I just want to emphasize Why is mobile qual helpful? I mean, we've heard throughout this session all these wonderful things that a survey can do. We've seen big data, we've been exposed to complex systems that are, just look at what we saw this morning about what was going on in Africa with trying to reach the beer consumers. Complex, large, very important studies for brands. But those things can take a long time. And they may not necessarily, while they're very valuable, very important, they may not always produce the deeper insights that are needed in some of the whys. And so mobile qual becomes a tool that can be used for almost any kind of study. It can be a supplement to a complex mobile survey. It can be a standalone exercise, or it can be part of any, really, you can use your imagination and see where reaching out to people and asking them what they think and being able to track through that data becomes a really useful tool. So basically, just to summarize those points, mobile qual is important because it delivers a deeper understanding of what drives decisions. It provides rich, in-depth glimpse of consumer reactions and thought processes. It produces very specific examples of what the consumer is thinking and saying in the moment while they're making a choice. And it exposes valuable sentiment that can drive business development. And the way we look at it, it takes you closer to the experience in terms of time and distance. And we feel, we can do that really well. I'm going back now to the thought yesterday, the comment regarding Jack Welch and his two main points. Jack Welch said, as was mentioned yesterday morning, you have to learn more about your customer faster than the competition. So time and distance. And you need to turn it into action faster than the competition. So if you need to get to market quickly, all you have to do sometimes is ask people, what's wrong? What do they think? And when people come to us with mobile qual, usually it's because they're trying to get into something that they can't figure out through the data they've already collected. For example, we just had a call just before Christmas from an online internet provider who is introducing a new service. And they said, we've got all this data, but the data didn't match up with in our survey to what we thought the consumers wanted. So can you help us ask some of these people that we collected this data from, what's wrong? What doesn't match? So that's the kind of way in which mobile qual can help you get into some significant insights. So today we're going to look at a coffee study. And we've got a guy here who's an entrepreneur. We're going to call him Bob. And he runs a successful chain of coffee shops in North America and Europe. And he has recently launched in Asia. Well, Bob has a problem. He has poor results in Asia. He's not hitting his targets. He's got low sales. He's got low customer traffic. He needs to correct his problems quickly. And the answer is, why? He's got leases. These leases cost money. People aren't spending enough money to cover his costs. He really is not in a position to wait a long time to get some answers about why people in Asia don't like his setup. He can ask questions like, what's your favorite beverage in the coffee shop? Well, that's nice to know. He can also ask them whether they are going to go back to the coffee shop again through a survey. And they can tell him yes, no, or maybe. But that has not told him why they aren't in the shop. So he needs to answer the questions. Why would someone go to a coffee shop? Why would you visit the coffee shop again? Why would non-coffee drinkers visit a coffee shop? Why do customers like Frappuccino so much? Now, we've talked here about the issues with the barriers to going mobile, and there are many. First of all, it's hard to know from country to country who the providers are, what the technology is, who the carriers are, who the manufacturers are, what all those phones can do. And sometimes when you're doing some surveys, you have to really understand that before you can launch in countries, particularly if you need to launch in several countries simultaneously. There are internet speed differences, there's mobile internet availability issues. So can he overcome these issues? Absolutely. Because if you can make a phone call you can participate. And that's the bottom line. It's simple, it's easy, there's little to no learning curve, everybody knows how to use their phone. All you have to do is speak and respond to what you're being asked to talk about. And it works on any device. And you can involve as many respondents as you want. And again, the device, based on the capability of the device and the strengths of the carrier, that will, the more you have to work with, the more you're going to be able to collect. In other words, if you've got great bandwidth and a great product like a 4S phone, an Apple phone, you are going to be able to get really sophisticated images and things like that from the respondents. But maybe they've just got a basic feature phone. They can still participate. Maybe their photos aren't going to be as great. Maybe even if they're like using something really simple, they're not going to send photos at all. But they're still going to be able to tell you what they think. And that's the most important thing that you want to collect from these respondents. So you don't have to be quite as careful in assessing your respondents. All you need to do is provide a phone number. So basically, the bottom line on that point is that mobile qual works and drives information in almost any situation. It gets them talking, it conveys emotional sentiment, and it gives context to the experience. And you learn what the experience was as it happened. And you listen as if you were really there. And you get insights that you don't get after the fact. And that's a critical point. You're getting them in the moment. So the answer for Bob is that the access to 96 countries with local, country-by-country, toll-free numbers with welcome greetings in the local language allowed him to do a multi-country study immediately and simultaneously with translation, with transcription in the local language converted to English, with moderator and respondent training, and full service hands-on project management with the recordings available immediately almost anywhere, and multi-language support. And a small screen size, not a factor. So it's easy really as 1, 2, 3. You ask, they answer, and you listen, and you get richer insights. So you can make it fun. Make the respondents feel like their thoughts are important. And sometimes people will say to us, well, let's just ask them this one question. Some of the studies that we do they're big. Some of them are larger. Like we've had everything from we're going to send 100 respondents out for one experience to 100 Walmarts to look at the gift wrap aisle. Because it's been redesigned and it's the holiday season, and we want to know now, on November 15th, we want to know on November 16th what their reaction is to this holiday display. And the client wants to know tomorrow. So can we turn that around in 24, 48 hours? Absolutely. Other studies are going to be really long. Maybe they're going to be like a year. Maybe you're going to have 800 respondents a month that have to be tracked through a patient journey and talk about their experience with a particular medication, how they feel in the moment during that day. And they've got to tell you 5 times a day how they feel. Well, that's a little bit more complex study. Whatever the study is, it's important to try to make it as fun as possible, because obviously if people are enjoying the experience, they're going to do more they're going to give you more when they like it. And also, it's important for the respondents to be made to feel that what they have to say and what they think is really important. There was a presentation just before the break that one of the points that was made was that that was in a survey, people came back and wanted to tell the client why their branding and name wasn't correct. Well, that's the kind of response you want to get, no matter what kind of mobile service you're providing. But yes, in this type of qual atmosphere, you really want to get as much as possible. So you got to make it fun, and we often send out participation packets for the larger studies. We also email, for short studies, email, and sometimes send out SMS, but it's really good to get them involved as much as possible. And you can also, in a larger study, You want to turn around 100 people in 2 days, they invite them to an online meeting. And sometimes we do that. We bring them into a meeting, they can see what they're supposed to do, they can hear it directly from the client, right on the phone and through the internet if that's accessible to them. It's helpful. So there's a lot of things you can do to engage the respondents on a practical level to get them completely committed to your study. One of the things that people sometimes say to us is, oh, are they really going to call? Are they really going to pick up the phone and tell you what they think? Oh my gosh, it's like, sometimes it's like letting the floodgates open. And often the clients will say, I got all these recordings back today, and I can't cope with all this data. We'll talk about data in a couple of minutes. But sometimes they even have to reach out to the respondents, or they ask us to reach out to the respondents and say, get back on track, stop talking so much, stick to the points. Because we're going to have too much information if you don't. It's very rare that somebody doesn't give you what you need. And if they don't, you know, well, as I mentioned earlier, the recordings are available within 10 minutes of having been made online to you, the client. So you can start listening automatically. And you can say, oh, I'm getting some really good stuff from this respondent. Or you can say, I didn't get very much here. I better call this respondent and tell them that they're not really following the directions of the study. Or you can say, this person's giving me too much. You have all that option with the immediate access to the online audio. And we provide, I think I mentioned earlier, in most countries in the world, we're able to provide a local toll-free number. Because of course, one of the client concerns is, how much is the respondent going to have to pay for this? Well, we bypass the telephone company completely. Everything goes right from the local toll-free number that we provide. It's our number. It's not it comes off of our platform. Just to simplify the thought. And it bypasses the phone system, comes directly into our database, so they don't have to deal with any of those issues. And then they can also, of course, send in photos if you want photos. They can send in videos if they have a device that produces the ability to do so. They can even send in text, and sometimes they do. The recordings, again, posted online in 10 minutes, and then we transcribe all of those, and we combine them on a board with the photo and the video and the text. Everything is sorted by respondent, date and time. Every audio file has a date and time stamp and a respondent name associated with it, or a code, depending on what you want. You can share all of that with the other members of the research team. You can share that with your clients, and immediate access. On the Civicom online platform, I mentioned everything is posted. It's an online bulletin board. So the board can be opened up even for comments. Obviously, if you're working in multiple languages, you're going to have to separate those respondents into separate discussions so they can talk to each other. You can engage them in an asynchronous focus group discussion, and you have a place where you can ask respondents additional questions and do some probing. If your study is something that is going to be long, not like the short Walmart one-day study that I described, but a longer study, you have the flexibility to build that aspect in. And I want to make a comment here that I haven't really got a slide on, which is because there's been a lot of discussion about online communities, private online communities. If you're building an online community, one of the things that you obviously really want is to have really engaged people who want to be in your community. Starting a project with Mobile Qual has become a great way to narrow down the best participants possible for the private online community, because you can tell from the kind of feedback you're getting. If you start with 100 respondents and you want 50 in the community, you can eliminate the 50 that didn't give you as much richness as you would like to have. And you can take the rest of those and put them into the community. So it's a great screening tool for getting to the right people that you need. And so what happens if you're in a country where you don't have really good bandwidth, et cetera? Well, I'll take Pakistan for an example. A very limited, the population has very limited bandwidth for uploading, downloading, sending in any kind of images. So, if you have to work around some of these problems. Sometimes you have to have people literally take pictures and have them developed and mailed to us and have us scan them in and then put everything onto a DVD and send it literally by mail back to the client. So there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat, I guess, in terms of mobile qual. From the most sophisticated kind of culture to the most, cultures that are still emerging. You just work with what you have based on what the culture can do. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just go back to Bob. And Bob did his study in several Asian countries. And so we're going to give you just a little bit of a snapshot of what Bob experienced as he did his study.
Yes, so Risa is one of his respondents, and she's from Malaysia. She's a writer, and she's age 22. And this is what she had to say. She likes coffee shops because it's a place where she could be by herself or with friends, and she likes that it's cool and it's not crowded. And this is a recording that we have. It's an audio clip from Risa.
Saya baru dapat cappuccino saya. Barista telah memanggil nama saya. Saya berasa malu sebab nama saya dipanggil dengan agak kuat. Mungkin ia bukannya dia. Mungkin kedai kopi ini tidak mempunyai penyerap bunyi yang banyak. Saya hanya berasa terlalu sedar diri sekarang. Tempat ini tidak mempunyai ramai orang. Tetapi saya dapat rasa yang mereka semua melihat saya sewaktu saya berdiri untuk mengambil kopi saya.
Okay, and now we have somebody from China. Her name is Mei, and this is what she had to say about coffee shops.
我看到人在店外，又排队又看里面的糕点，但是没看到他们去买。其实我想要店里的集邮券，不过没看到价格，所以决定不买了。我不想随便问问糕点的价格，因为不想觉得必须买里面的东西。
Okay, we actually have a lot more of respondents here. We have Kumar from India, and let me just jump right to his recording.
मैं चाय की दुकान पर अपने दोस्तों का इंतज़ार कर रहा हूँ। मैंने उन्हें यहाँ मिलने के लिए बोला है। ये एक अच्छी और लुभावनी जगह है। यहाँ कुर्सियाँ भी काफ़ी आरामदायक हैं। मैं और मेरे दोस्त यहाँ अक्सर मिलना।
Right, we don't have enough time to actually go over all the recordings. So we also have Kim from Korea. Okay.
나는 언제나 커피를 즐겨 마셔. 아참, 나는 재택근무하는 프리랜서 아티스트야. 내가 기분 전환을 위해서 들리는 좋은 장소가 바로 커피숍이야. 근데 와이파이가 제공되지 않거나 충분한 여유분의 전원 플러그 제공하지 않는 곳은 별로 가고 싶지 않아.
Okay, so multiply these recordings by many respondents in each country, and so now we have the qualitative researcher's problem. So much data. How can Bob translate all these whys into insights? So one of the things that we do every year in our company is every January is we do what's called our Campaign for Excellence, when we call all of our clients and we ask them how we did during the year, and we also ask them what their needs are. What's your big problem? What do you want? What can we work on for you? And overwhelmingly last year, a year ago, we heard data, help, please, we cannot cope with the amount of information we're getting. And a lot of people are starting to do mobile qualitative. And so people were saying, we need help us. So we decided that we would go in that direction. So there's a number of things that we are providing that can help solve this data problem. Tagging, data extraction, text analytics, sentiment analysis, followed by charts and graphs that can be delivered to the client that show a summary. So it's sort of like a little bit of a quant type of thing done on top of qualitative. So on our bulletin board, people are able to Everything is posted when it's transcribed. Everything is posted on the bulletin board along with the recordings, sorted by date and time. People can click on the recording and listen to it. And then as they are looking at the transcript, they can also start engaging in what's called tagging, perhaps pointing out the positives and the negatives. And I won't go into all the details of tagging and how it's sorted, but it's very helpful. There's also a tool called data extraction, where the transcripts can be taken and they're gone through, and the key elements are pulled out, the positives and the negatives are pulled out and into easily digestible chunks of information on an Excel spreadsheet. Then there's also the text analytics tools that we have developed through our doing an analysis last year that are then translated into 2D and 3D graphics. And these tools usually involve lexical chaining, where you're looking at the words before the thought and after the thought, and then the software pulls out the main points, and then you can ask questions around those findings, and then basically keep narrowing it down until you get to the final point. So basically, looking at this slide, you've got things on the surface, which you can get through, I think, through a survey. But you've got the things under the surface. And we don't have time to talk about what's under the surface, but that's not the point. The point is that the difference is what's under the surface is what you get with mobile qual. And so basically, audio gives you a much deeper understanding of sentiment. Comments such as being able to hear the recordings tells us a lot about what they're feeling and thinking. We got much more detail, et cetera. And this kind of a capability can be engaged in many kinds of applications. This is the obvious list: shopper insights, mall intercepts, retail, eating habits, consumer products, pharma, patient journeys, mystery shopping, event experience, respondent diaries. And it also, I don't have a slide on this, but it's an ideal solution for private situations where, I mean, one example, without going into too much detail, a client had a private product that they wanted to interview people for on the phone. And they requested specific gender of the person that was handling the calls, because this was a gender-based study. Not important whether it was male or female. But basically, even in the interview on the phone, the people were reluctant, and they spoke euphemistically about their experience with the product because there was some embarrassment even talking about it. When we switched to mobile qual, they opened up and they told you everything that they thought. So we take you closer to the experience in terms of time and distance, we feel, than anyone else in research. And there we are, hot roasted and intense, getting to why in the global coffee culture through mobile qualitative.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we don't really have any time for questions, I'm afraid.
Oh, you're kidding.
Round that
Oh,
over.
I did. Oh, I'm sorry.
But
2 minutes.
I want to take one question if anybody's got one.